Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to talk about generational proclivities, or what we sometimes call, or we commonly hear is generational curses, and maybe some things that I can help share with you to help break those curses or those proclivities for you to be the bloodline breaker. In this video, I want to share with you something that I do quite often is I take what I call prayer walks. It's just walking, but those walks serve a multi-purposes for me. Number one, it helps me to get movement in, but secondly, it gives me time to pray. It gives me time to listen, and it gives me time to have some revelations about what I believe God is saying to me. That still small voice I believe that I'm hearing during those walks. Now, sometimes when I'm doing my prayer walks, I get nothing. But I think we need to learn how to appreciate quiet time. I think a lot of us, we are so busy, so many things are going on around us, we don't appreciate the quietness and just being with and by yourself. And during these walks, I don't listen to music. I don't have in earbuds or anything like that. Usually, I typically start out by speaking in my heavenly language. And I may do that for 10 or 15 minutes. You can set your stopwatch if you want to do that. But it's not something precise. You just do that as the Spirit leads, or I do it as the Spirit leads me. And then I go into Thanksgiving. And that can go on forever. You can thank God. It's endless things that you can thank God for. And after Thanksgiving, I really try not to ask for anything. So I try not to do any supplication. I try to just listen. And oftentimes during these walks, God will bring things in my spirit that I've never thought of, or I've thought about it, and maybe it's for some reason it has been pushed aside for whatever the reason. And I'm going to share with you on this particular walk, what was it that God revealed to me, and what was the solution? What was going to be, in my case, the bloodline breaker, in my case, in this particular situation. So stay tuned. I want to share this with you, and hopefully this helps you as well. All right. Before I get into the meat of this video, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions. Number one, I'm going to assume that you have heard of the words generational curse or curses. Number two, that you believe that all curses can be broken. And number three, you have some idea that there are some untold or some unknown, I'm going to use the word secrets in your family that maybe you're not aware of, and possibly that God is trying to make you aware of, so you can make some particular changes for your destiny and for the generation that's going to come behind you. And then finally, I'm going to, this is not an assumption, but I'm just going to let you know, I'm going to be looking down at my notes because there's some specific things that I want to touch on. I don't want to go off into a tangent, which I can do. And I just want to make sure that I cover some specific things and just not go too deep and just start just blabbing along. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to get this out. So in this video, like I said, I'm going to talk about what was the revelation that I received during my prayer walk, dealing with open doors, generational curses, generational proclivities, and what are some of the things that I can do specifically to help break this over my life, if that is something that is still relevant to me, but mostly for the generation that's coming behind me. Because unfortunately, in some families, a lot of families keep secrets. A lot of families don't have open communication and really talk about those things that may have happened in the past, or with previous ancestors or prior ancestors and things like that. And there's a generation that's going to come behind you that may have never known all these people that you are aware of, and they may not know the things that you know. So since you are aware of it, you have a responsibility. And I'm talking to the believers here. You have a responsibility to do your due diligence to break that curse over your family and over the future bloodline. And secondly, I'm going to use the word family because I think that's a kind of an all-inclusive. But to me personally, there's a difference between family to me and relatives. Family to me is those persons that you have created a loving, healthy relationship with, whether they are blood related or not. Those relationships are mutually beneficial. They are mutually defined, and they have a lot of honor and respect tied to them. Relatives is, unfortunately, relatives are people that you don't choose. You didn't get a choice in your parents. You didn't get a choice in your siblings, your grandparents, your cousins, and all those people. And for some, if you had a choice, I'm pretty sure you would have chose different. I would have in many cases, and some of the relatives in my life. But neither here or there, some way with a relative, you are genetically connected to them by DNA. But that doesn't mean because they are a relative, they are actually family, okay? So family you choose, relatives you don't choose. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to use the word family. But please understand, for me, there's a difference between family and relatives. Family, in my opinion, are those persons that you choose, and they do not have to have a blood connection to you. Relatives are people, you may have a great relationship with them and you may not. But for whatever the reason, they have some genetic connection to you by DNA, okay? All right, so I want to put that out there. So I'm just going to use family as an all-inclusive in terms of this video. So as you have already seen, the suggested reading is Hebrews 12 verses 1. And I hope you have an opportunity to read the whole chapter, but at least read Hebrews 12 verse 1. My first point I wanted to talk about, I just did, which is the definition between relatives and family. I think that's important because I say things because it may just be a common word and it helps simplify the topic on the video. But for me, it is a huge difference between family and relatives. The second point, in a previous video, I spoke about a book that I read called The Origins of You. And that book helped me to identify toxic family patterns. And it talked about everyone has an origin story. And I also heard a business mentor, I think his name is Daniel Priestley, I believe is his name. He talked about for every entrepreneur, when he's coaching an entrepreneur, each person has an origin story. And oftentimes that origin story is usually, you can find that origin story between the ages of 10 and 13. And usually there's something in their life that happened. It could have been a heroic moment. It could have been a moment of empowerment. And really could be a moment of tragedy that really shifted and changes their mindset and their perspective. And oftentimes, if you can tap into the origin story, a lot of times you can find your purpose and your fulfillment. And oftentimes, it can open up a roadmap to your destiny. And so, in the book, The Origins of You, it shared that each person's destiny is shaped or comprised of a series of life events, either good or bad. For some people, looking back at that time frame from the age of 10 or 13, it could be something very scary. So oftentimes, so many people have been through so many different things in their life. So when I read this in the book, The Origins of You, and I heard this entrepreneur, this mentor say this, obviously I took a moment and I sat down and I thought about what happened in my life during the ages of 10 to 13. And it did bring forth some eye-opening things. It helped me to understand where that shift came in my life. And at the age of 10, I could pinpoint a huge shift for a life-changing event that happened in my life. So I want to encourage you to do this. If don't be afraid of it, and it's not like it's something that you got to share with somebody else, but you never know, this could unlock your destiny. This could be, if you're stuck as an entrepreneur trying to figure out what is it that you're supposed to be doing and why are you doing these things. Maybe you need to write out your origin story. Figure out what are those things, age 10 to 13, and go back in time. And this is something I think you really need to do alone, because what I don't think would be helpful if you get other people's viewpoint. And what I've come to learn, especially within my family structure, the relatives that I'm speaking of, in that structure, people are not honest. They're not very forthcoming. And sometimes the very thing that you need to really help you catapult you forward, people don't take it serious. So for me, if it's something that relatives of mine have shared, if I can't prove it, I don't repeat it and I don't trust it. And so I go on what I know to be true, what I believe to be true, and I can trust that. And even if it comes out to be wrong, then I fail. I don't have to now say that somebody else failed me, okay? Because sometimes when you've gone through enough hurt and pain within your family structure, you don't need another person adding to that burden, that stockpile of trash of betrayal. And so what you need to do is really rely on your own thoughts, your own opinions, and ask the Holy Spirit to give you guidance and help you kind of sort through this.